Good morning, grade 10s. Welcome to our revision lesson. This is our lesson 14. Today we'll be looking at the revision for your forms of ownership. Remember, grade 10s now, the whole of July, not the whole of July, but since from the 1st of July, um, basically the first 2 weeks of July, we have dealt with forms of ownerships. And we'll be looking at the revision because on Thursday, we're writing a formal assessment, and that formal assessment will be posted to you basically. So it is very important to understand your forms of ownerships. So today we are actually doing a consolidated question on forms of ownerships, not a consolidated question, but more of like a revision on your forms of ownership. It is very vital, grade 10s, to understand your forms of ownership basically, so that come what you call come Thursday, you know that you are ready for your assessment. Remember, the assessment, you're going to get it on Thursday. So basically, we'll also mark it here in class with you online. So, but the paper will be posted to you anytime soon today. Then you have tomorrow and Wednesday to write the paper. But on Wednesday, we'll be doing the corrections on that question paper. All right. I want to take you through our forms of ownerships. Now, basically, boys and girls, you still need to be able to understand a difference between your private companies and public companies, right? So we know that private companies may not offer shares to the general public, basically, whereas the public companies, they do trade their shares publicly and they are on the Johannesburg Stock Exchange, that your JSE. Also, shares are not freely transferable in under your private company, whereas under the public company, shares are freely transferable. You can always transfer them at any time. In your private company, okay, I need my highlighter so that I can be able to highlight the important stuff, right? So also in your private company, we know that you can have a minimum of one director, whereas now in your public company, you must have a minimum of 3 directors, basically. Also, we know that under a private company, your name must end with PTY, basically, right? So it must end with PTY Limited. Okay, I need my highlight, okay, for a private company, proprietary limited, right? So PTY stands for proprietary, LTD stands for limited. Then we know under a public company, we know it just ends with LTD without proprietary, right? And under a private company, we must also know that your annual financial statements need not to be audited and published, basically, right? So we don't have to audit or publish, basically, because we know that here we do not sell our shares in public, basically. So there's no need for us to get our financial statements to be audited and published. Whereas in a public company, annual financial statements need to be audited and published, basically, because everyone will have an access in these financial statements since you're a public company and you'll be selling your shares on public, right? Then also the other thing that you need to know, under a private company, you do not or does not need to publish prospectus, as it cannot trade its shares publicly, right? So we know that here we don't have to issue out a prospectus. Remember, when you sell your shares, you must issue out your prospectus to the public if you are under public companies. But if you are under private company, remember we said one of the roles or a rule under public or under private company is that their shares are not offered to general public. So how does your private companies issue their shares? Private companies issue their shares through the existing shareholders, whereas a public company issue their shares through the public, basically. Even the existing shareholders, they can further more and buy. But the bottom line is anyone anyone who's qualifying to buy those shares can buy them. So no wonder under public company, basically, we have to have a prospectus. Whereas in a private company, we don't have to publish a prospectus, right? No wonder here, if you look under your public company, it says have a register and publish a prospectus with your companies and intellectual property commission, your CIPC. So basically, your prospectors, you must register with CIPC, basically. So you can't just do your prospectors, right? So your prospectors needs to be registered through CPIC so that they can see on whether everything that is in the prospectus is included or not, because there are certain things that are a must, meaning that you can't issue a prospectus to sell shares without including those things. So it is very vital to register through CIPC if you are a public company, so that they can scrutinize or check or sort of like get an accreditation from CIPC, your company's intellectual property commission, basically. Right. Also, boys and girls, remember we also dealt with that the company is not required to raise minimum subscription issue or issue minimum shares, right? Whereas we know under public company, we must raise a minimum subscription prior for the commencement of the company, basically. Whereas under the private company, we do not have to meet those deadlines or those restrictions, basically. Right. So this was a general briefing between your private company and your public company. Welcome to those who are just joining us. I can see Chichi, I can see Khahlo, I can see Zane Adams. Yes. Right. Welcome, guys. And I hope you're finding this very useful, right? This, guys, is just a recap from what we were doing in the last 2 weeks, basically. So we are writing an assessment on Thursday. Probably it will be issued sometime tomorrow. So it's a task. It's a formal task. It will be shared around tomorrow with you. So please download it, that task. It's on forms of ownerships. I want you guys to do it at home and write it, because on Thursday I'll be giving you a feedback session. So Thursday it's a feedback session based on that task. So we'll be marking together online. So I'll strongly encourage you to attempt it tomorrow and Wednesday, so that Thursday you are ready with that task. Basically, it is your own responsibility to attempt that task, boys and girls, because it's going to help you basically to understand majority of the things, or a lot of the things, when it comes to this. So we'll be running these tasks now and then. Just have a look out on when we're going to write the next one after this one this week, right? All right. Also, basically, we have covered these things prior to this. It's just that now I thought of doing a revision so that it can prep you for the task that you'll be getting soon, right? So now also, boys and girls, you must also know the difference between a private company and a personal liability company. Does it make sense? So we know that a private company, basically, it ends with your PTY Ltd, which means your proprietary limited, whereas your state-owned company, it ends with your INC, right? So it's very important, right? So we need to know the difference. Sorry, guys, here I meant to say state-owned company, not private company. So it's supposed to be state-owned. Supposed to be state-owned company, right? So it's your state-owned company, right? Okay, right. Okay, I need my highlighter again. Right. So we're looking at between private and state-owned company. And guys, please note that in your assessment on Thursday, or the one that will be loaded soon, I'll be asking on the state-owned company. And that's our focus for today. You need to be able to understand your state-owned company. what is its definition, its characteristics, its advantages, disadvantages, because now when we do the revision on Thursday, I mean, when we're marking on Thursday, you need to see where you went wrong, basically, right? All right, now let's look at these two differences. These two differences, basically, boys and girls, it's just that your private company, as I said earlier on, it ends with your PTY Ltd, right? Whereas your state-owned company ends with your INC. Then under private company, the directors are not personally liable for the debts of the business, right? Here, the directors are personally liable for the debts of the business, right? That's another thing. Or those are the two differences between your private and your state-owned company. Now, boys and girls, I really want us to look at the state-owned company into detail. I want us to scrutinize the state-owned company and see basically what is a state-owned company, how do we see it, where is it going to help us and stuff like that, right? Now, if you look at your state-owned company, so its definition is that a state-owned company, basically, boys and girls, it is state-owned company, has the government as its major shareholder and falls under the Department of Public Company, right? So it falls under a public enterprise, right? So let's recap this again, step by step, so that you can understand what is a state-owned company. We said a company that has the government. So it's the company that has the government as its major shareholder. Now, it's this company that its shareholder, its major shareholder, its government, basically, right? Therefore, that company, all of it will be regarded as a state-owned company. How do we see whether someone is being regarded as a major shareholder? If that person, he or she, owns more than 50% of the company, that person will be regarded as a major shareholder, basically, right? And it falls under the Department of Public Enterprise. Now, bullet number 2 says to you, these companies take on role of the commercial enterprise on behalf of the government. So they take on role, so it's very important, take on role of the commercial enterprise on behalf of the government. Does it make sense? Right. So we know now what is a state-owned company. You should be able to know that, right? It's when a major shareholder is, or you could have just said it's when a major shareholder is a government. That's where we can say it's a state-owned company. Now let's look at the characteristics of your state-owned company. Meaning now, what are the characteristics? These are the things that we need to look after, or these are the indication that tells us on what we need to see, or the indicators of where, of what we can see, of where we can check whether this is a state, of what things we can look after, or things that we can look for, or things that they highlight to us that this is a state-owned company. So that's what we speak about characteristics, guys. Remember, each and every chapter here, it has characteristics. Like, for instance, you as an individual, what are your characteristics? Meaning that, how do you see that person that is that person, basically? How do you verify that? Through the characteristics. Let's say you are a person who's loud. Does it make sense? You are a person who's very noisy, very bubbly, the person who likes jokes, the person who likes to eat a lot, the person who likes to travel. So if they say, explain person X, you can say person X is like this and like this and like this. So even if they can say there's a person like who's loud, who's like jokes, who likes to laugh and who likes to eat, who's that person? Because you know the characteristics of that person, it's going to be easier for you to identify that person. So that's what I mean with characteristics. Characteristics are very important for each and every object. Each and everything has characteristics. Even you as an individual, you do have characteristics. we do have characters basically, right? We know that we call a group of characters characteristics basically, right? So each and if even some of the companies, they do have their characteristics, the manner in which they behave, on how we're going to identify such companies. So you need to know their characteristics. So in order for you to identify something, you must know its characteristics. How does it behave basically? That's what we mean by characteristics, or what does it entail basically, right? So with your state-owned company, boys and girls, we need to look at your that the name ends with SOC, right? That's one of the characteristics. So sometimes if it's written in the billboard that uh, let's say, I'm just going to think of a name, maybe STEAM Digital School, SOE, right? So if it's written STEAM Digital School, SOE, it means that for the SOC, not SOE, for the SOC, it will tell me, a reader or someone uh, one who's a potential investor. So it will tell me automatically that, oh, actually, STEAM Digital School is a state-owned company, right? Also, SOE are public, are listed as public companies, right? It makes sense because your state-owned companies, they are being listed as public companies. Also, it is owned by government and operated for profit. So it is owned by government. We said earlier on with the definition that its major shareholder is government, right? All right. Now, one or more persons may incorporate, and there is no limit on number of shareholders. So, very important. We don't have any limitation when it comes to number of shareholders, which means we can have 16 or 6 million, whatever shareholders that we have, there is no limitation. Now, also, it requires 3 or more directors and 1 shareholder, right? And 1 more shareholder, right? So it needs 3 directors. That's the minimum, right? 3 or more directors and 1 or more shareholders, right? So a shareholder can be 1, can be 2, 3, 4, 5, up until to infinity, right? Then it says to you, state-owned companies support private business by providing infrastructure such as communication service, post office, and supply electricity or ESCOM. Also, a state-owned company enjoys financial autonomy because they are to depend on the government for the initial investment, right? So we know that these people, they depend on government for initial investment now and then, right? Also, the Act imposes personal liabilities on directors who are knowingly part of the carrying of the business in the reckless or fraudulent manner, right? Very important, even this point. It is very important to know it, boys and girls. It's going to help you to answer majority of your most theory questions, right? And remember now, um, under this subject, we deal with theories basically, right? We'll be looking or scrutinizing at theories, looking at how we need to know certain things and stuff like that. Now, let's look at more of your characteristics of your state-owned company. Another thing that you need to know about your state-owned company is that your state-owned company is compelled with its financial statements to be audited, right? So you have to audit your financial statements under a state-owned company, basically. So very important, financial statements, they must be audited, right? Also, a state-owned company is compelled to attend its AGM, right? You must attend. It's a must to attend the AGM. A state-owned company has separate legal personality and have limited liability. Sorry, shareholders have the limited liability basically, right? So that's what they tell us here, boys and girls, that basically your state-owned company has a separate legal personality basically and have your limited shoulders for liabilities. Now, boys and girls, let's look at the good things about this type of company, of which is your state-owned company, right? Let's look what are the positive things or what are the good things about their state-owned companies. Remember, we get these from going to download them. I'm going to download them probably I mean, I'm going to send you guys these set of notes, maybe via email or so, right? Now, let's look at the good things about these state-owned company. We know that here your shareholders have limited liabilities. Also, profits may be used to finance other state departments. Basically, we know that the profits that we get under our state-owned companies, they can be distributed in other state departments. So we offer essential services which may not be offered by the private company, right? Also, wasteful duplication of private services is eliminated, basically. Also, jobs are created for the skills level, right? So we do create jobs under state-owned companies so that we can develop skills level, right? Remember, other companies, they don't even create jobs. You're just going to be there for the rest of the whatever, basically, right? Now, another thing that you need to look at, it generates income to finance social programs. So sometimes they do generate income for social programs. Like for instance, guys, on Saturday, it was Mandela Day. That's where we saw most of the companies basically helping the needy people during their 67 minutes. So also, guys, that's also part of generosity, and that's also part of growth as an individual, you know. We know that here in South Africa, we firmly believe in Ubuntu. So that thing will also make you to be aware of the things that you need to do, even though you're going to have a company at the end of the day or whatever. But please, please, please stay tuned, guys, and know that I'm here for you always. Should you encounter any problems or you've got any questions, you must always feel free to email me. Right. Also, we need to look at prices are kept reasonable. So we know under state-owned company, prices are kept reasonable or create sound competition with private sector, making service affordable to more citizens, basically, right? And also another thing that you need to look at, um, it provides a healthy competition to village sectors to be the government contributions, right? Also, most of the government companies run on the sound of selling its shares in the public, right? So that's how they expand their company, right? Or their business, basically, because they can offer shares to the public, right? Also, now, boys and girls, if I were to scroll down, um, we know that also a state-owned company has a separate legal personality and separate legal liability. Now let's look at your bad things about this state-owned company, meaning your disadvantage or your negatives, basically. Why would people criticize your state-owned company? Why people would not want the state-owned company? Guys, the first one is that majority of the time it benefits the government people. That's the bad thing about it. It's that it benefits the government people. That's what is bad, right? Can you see? I haven't looked at the memo, but I'm already telling you the answer just by the virtue of thinking and trying to think deep, basically, right? Now, if we look at these disadvantages, basically, we're going to start with them one by one. We know that inefficiency due to the size of the business, that's very important. And also the financial statements must be audited. So that's the bad thing, because remember, if financial statements must be audited, it means that more cost for us, because which means we need to go find the external what you call these people, um external engineer to come and motivate your papers. Sorry, not your papers, but your financial statements, right? Also, losses must be met by the taxpayer. Also, the government can lose money through the business. Also, shares are not transferably trademark um, through the business. Shares are not freely tradable. It makes it difficult to raise capital. So it's not easy for you to trade shares. So it's gonna be difficult to raise capital here, basically, boys and girls. Right. Also, a lack of incentives for employees to perform if there is no absence or other motivation, such as productivity bonuses. Also, a lack of incentive uh, for employees, basically, boys and girls, to perform is there no share in profit, right? Also, it may result to poor management as the government is not always as efficient as the private sector. Also, under a state-owned company, often rely on government subsidies, which may not cover all the company's expense. Right, your state-owned company must follow restriction regulations for operation to raise capital. The last two things that we need to check under the disadvantage of state-owned company is that a state-owned company is compelled to attend its annual financial statements and also is compelled to do its retained income note. Very easy, boys and girls. I hope it makes sense so far. Sorry. I hope everything is making sense so far, and I hope everyone is following. Uh, please, boys and girls, make sure that you are familiar with this. Make sure that you are fine with this activity, as it will help you for prepping your activities on Thursday, basically, right? So remember that the paper will be posted to you on time. Then it is your own duty and your own responsibility to do it. It will be on forms of ownerships, and it will be on state-owned companies, basically, guys, right? So please, it is very important to do all the work and all the activities, boys and girls. From my side, I say thank you so much, and have a lovely day and a lovely afternoon. Please push as much as you can, guys. Feel free to ask me questions if you've got any questions, right? You can always email me at nkosihector28@gmail.com should you have any questions. For now, great hands. Can I see by the show of hands, are we all fine? Just raise your hand if you are fine, you understood everything. Are there any clarifications? Well done. I can see Chichi. Chichi is fine. Elizabeth, are you fine? Sorry if I spelled your name incorrectly. Nkahlo, yes, Nkahlo. Please just raise up your hand, guys, if you are fine, so that you can see that everyone is fine, actually. Okay, guys, please make sure that you understand your state-owned company. Well done, Elizabeth. Yes, she's saying she's fine, Elizabeth. Well done. The one is okay. One more. Khahlo, please try to raise your hand. Oh, perfect. Okay, seems like all the class is sorted now. We're on the same page. So please, boys and girls, make sure that you do you do all your questions basically, and you understand your state-owned companies, guys, as it will help you a lot, basically, as it will help you a lot for your revision test. So please take the test serious, and please attempt it and write it. Why I'm saying that, come Thursday, when we do the feedback session, it's going to be helpful, or it's going to be fruitful to you to follow whatever you want to follow. But should you not, what you call, do your test on time, therefore you're going to have a problem. All right, boys and girls, from my side, thank you so much, and have a lovely afternoon. Goodbye.